By day, I was Marcus' shadow guard, but by night, I became his plaything in bed. His desires were insatiable, tormenting me until dawn every night, not even sparing me during my period. After another bout of pleasure, he coldly tossed clothes at me. "You don't need to come here anymore." I knelt cautiously on the floor. "Your Highness, is it because Claire served you poorly?" The man who had just been holding me in a deathly embrace looked down at me, his eyes distant and indifferent. "My marriage with Emily is set. She's been spoiled since childhood and is afraid of pain, so I only allowed you to warm my bed to practice, but I won't need you anymore. You've always been sensible. You know what to do." I hadn't recovered from the shock of his upcoming marriage when his next words stunned me into silence. My whole body felt like it had fallen into an ice cave, and I couldn't speak for a long time. Until Marcus repeated impatiently, "Did you understand?" I lowered my head in a mess, trying to hide the tears welling up in my eyes. "Claire understands." Marcus then waved his hand with satisfaction. I got up in a daze, and as I was about to leave with stiff limbs, I was suddenly stopped again. "Wait." My heart leaped with joy, and I looked at him with anticipation. I wanted to hear him say that everything he had just said was a lie, that he wasn't getting married, and that I wasn't just a tool for him to practice with for his beloved. But I saw him propping his chin up with his hand, pointing his finger at my stomach from a distance. "Don't leave any hidden dangers." My smile froze on my face in an instant. I had maintained this ambiguous relationship with Marcus for 3 years, and he would always tell me to take the birth control pill afterward. I knew my status was humble and I wasn't worthy of bearing his child, so I never stopped taking the medicine for 3 years. In order not to embarrass myself further, I bowed my hand and fled from that place. I rushed back to my room, and until I closed the door, the tears could no longer be controlled, gushing out like a flood. I bit my hand, trying not to cry out loud. I had been Marcus' shadow guard for 10 years, and his secret bedwarmer for 3 years, so I was used to swallowing my tears. After wiping away my tears, I skillfully brewed myself a bowl of medicine. It wasn't until a burning sting came from my fingertips that I realized all 10 fingers had been burned. My relationship with Marcus began with an accident. 3 years ago, the minister's daughter, who had been in love with him for a long time, drugged him at a royal ball. When I realized something was wrong, he had already drunk all the wine. Marcus had always been self-disciplined and didn't even have a servant by his side as crown prince. Tormented by the drug and losing his mind, he stumbled and dragged me onto the bed. I struggled desperately but was afraid of hurting him, and ultimately spent a ridiculous night with him. When Marcus woke up, he thought I had climbed into his bed in the chaos, kicked me off the bed, and said in a voice as cold as ice, "Get to the Hall of Justice and be punished." I didn't dare disobey his order, endured the discomfort, and received a solid 50 lashes. When I was carried back to my room, a bowl of black medicine was already on the table. I had grown up with Marcus since I was a child, so I naturally knew what it was. Later, he found out that it was the minister's daughter who had drugged him that night. He looked at me with a complicated expression. "Why didn't you explain what happened that day?" No matter how much I said, it would be useless, and besides, I did have selfish motives. Perhaps out of guilt, or perhaps because he had developed a taste for what happened that night, I maintained this relationship with him for 3 whole years. Marcus never allowed me to spend the night in his room. Every time after serving him, I would drag my tired body back to my room alone. After drinking the medicine, I fell asleep in a daze. In my dream, I returned to the heavy snow that year. It was the deadliest snow disaster in Etheria's history. The snow fell for 3 whole months, and countless victims froze to death on the roadside. My parents were among them. I was tightly protected in their arms, with only a breath left. Marcus passed by and saved me, giving me a place to stay. At that time, he was still weak and in a difficult situation. Many people wanted to take his life. After he experienced another assassination, I decided to become a shadow guard so that he would not be harmed again. So even though the road to becoming a shadow guard was full of hardships, I never gave up. Later, I succeeded, and he gradually became the crown prince who now held great power and was deeply loved and trusted by the emperor. I knew I wasn't worthy of him, but I still fell for the occasional tenderness he showed. Over the years, Marcus had been hot and cold to me, sometimes kicking me away and sometimes gently holding me, begging me not to leave. For this promise that wasn't really a promise, I had guarded him year after year. I thought I had at least a place in his heart, but I didn't know that it was just my delusion. I didn't sleep well that night, and my dreams were full of the moments I had spent with Marcus over the years. When I woke up again, I had made a decision. Since he no longer needed me, there was nothing for me to miss. The next morning, I went to the Shadow Guard barracks to submit my application to leave. Unlike other Shadow Guards, I was free. Marcus had said that I could leave whenever I wanted. But I had also said that I would never go anywhere except by his side in this life. Now I had broken my promise. The Shadow Guard captain hesitated as he looked at me. Does the prince know about this? The Shadow Guard captain was the only one who knew about my relationship with Marcus. Occasionally, he would be considerate and let me rest. Faced W. At his question, I shook my head bitterly. It doesn't matter. To him, I was just an insignificant subordinate, and someone would soon come to replace me. He would also forget about me soon. The Shadow Guard captain didn't try to persuade me any further, but patted me reassuringly, saying that someone would come to replace me in 3 days, and I just needed to stand guard for the last 3 days. As soon as I returned to my room, a servant came to report that Marcus wanted to see me. I hurried over and almost bumped into Emily. This was the first time I had seen her. She was indeed a beautiful and refined woman. I was worlds apart from her, no wonder Marcus liked her. Seeing that I almost bumped into her, Marcus lifted his eyelids and glanced at me coldly. How are you walking? I was stung by his gaze and was about to apologize. Emily hooked her arm around his and shook it coquettishly. Brother Prince, I'm fine. I've long heard that you have a first-rate shadow guard by your side. I guess this is her? I bowed my hand. I am Claire. Greetings, future princess. Hearing this title, Marcus' eyes suddenly fell on me, with a hint of emotion that I couldn't understand. Emily pulled me shyly. Shadow Guard sister, Brother Prince and I are going to Raven's Peak to admire the flowers. Why don't you come with us? I was Marcus' Shadow Guard, and wherever he went, I went. Along the way, Emily chattered and pulled him, finding everything fresh and new. Marcus didn't seem to mind and patiently talked to her, with a faint smile on his lips. I fell a few steps behind them, quietly watching the scene. My status was humble, and I could only stand behind him and look at him from afar. I never thought of standing shoulder to shoulder with him. Ahead, Marcus removed a fallen leaf from her head, with a look of affection and tenderness that I had never seen before. I turned my eyes away in disappointment. At noon, Emily called out to me, Sister, come over and eat with us. I respectfully took a few steps back. This is not appropriate. Marcus didn't even look up and put a piece of dessert into her bowl. Don't mind her, this dessert will get cold if you don't eat it. Hearing this, Emily quickly forgot about me. I didn't want to make a fool of myself and found a quiet place to eat the cold sandwich that I had prepared. Just then, an accident happened. A group of men in black suddenly appeared from nowhere, all with their faces covered and their blades unsheathed. I flew in front of Marcus without thinking. But he pushed me away. Protect Emily, if anything happens to her, I'll take your head. Before I could react, he had already rushed up to fight with the men in black. I carefully protected Emily, trying to get her out of the encirclement. Seeing a in black rushing over, I kicked him away, and with one stroke eliminated the scoundrel who was trying to attack from behind. Blood splattered and covered Emily. The young lady who had been pampered since childhood had never seen such a scene before. She screamed in fright and held me tightly, refusing to let go. I couldn't use my full strength and could only dodge one attack after another with her. A man in black took the opportunity to pounce on us. I was about to dodge with her, but Emily pushed me toward the blade. Pfft, that blade hit me right in the shoulder, and the pain made me break out in a cold sweat. I looked at her in shock, and Emily squatted on the ground in a daze, covering her head. I gritted my teeth and cut the man's throat. Just as I was about to lose my grip, the guards finally took down all the men in black. Marcus rushed over in an instant, his heart focused only on Emily. Emily, how are you? Are you hurt? Emily burst into tears and threw herself into his arms. Brother Prince, I almost thought I would never see you again. Marcus kissed her forehead with pity. Don't be afraid, I'm here, I won't let anything happen to you. I stared blankly at the two, who had survived the ordeal and were embracing tightly. Blood dripped from my fingertips to the ground. It wasn't until someone said, Claire, you're injured, that I couldn't hold on any longer and fainted. When I opened my eyes again, Emily was standing in front of the bed, looking at me with tears in her eyes. Sister, I'm sorry, you wouldn't have been so badly injured if it weren't for me. I looked at her without saying a word. If I hadn't turned sideways in time to change direction, that knife would have killed me directly. Marcus put his arm around her. Silly girl, she's my shadow guard, this is what she's supposed to do, you don't have to blame yourself. The pain in my body was severe, but it was far less than the pain in my heart at that moment. Emily sniffled and put a delicate ceramic jar on the table. Sister, I brought you medicine, remember to apply it. I struggled to pull my lips. Thank you, Princess, for your concern. Claire is fine. As a shadow guard, I had suffered more serious injuries than this. After the two left, I couldn't hold on any longer and fell asleep. When I woke up, it was already dark, and a black figure was sitting on the edge of the bed. Recognizing it was Marcus, I was about to get up. He pressed me down, frowning. Claire, you've regressed. I didn't argue. I deserve to die. The room fell silent for a moment. After a long time, Marcus sighed. Rest well, you don't have to come to serve me these 2 days. I responded. But for some reason, Marcus was still sitting there, not leaving, and I didn't have the strength to deal with him anymore. I fell asleep again without realizing it. In my dream, I seemed to hear a sigh, a voice with some helplessness and pity. I thought it was an illusion. How could the high and mighty prince show such an expression for someone like me? I slept until noon. When I woke up, I heard that Marcus and Emily's wedding had been moved forward. It was 2 days later, the day I was leaving. I also heard that I was injured that day and Marcus carried me back. He was always like this, giving me a slap and then a sweet date. This time, I won't be fooled again. I silently packed my luggage. There wasn't much to pack anyway. I had been by his side for more than 10 years, and my luggage was pitifully small. Besides a few clothes and a dagger, there was nothing else. This dagger was given to me by Marcus when I first performed a mission. I had never left it since then. I stared at it blankly and silently took it out of my luggage again. Since I was going to break up, I would break up cleanly. The night before I left, Emily suddenly came to visit. She said that she didn't have any sisters and that she was very compatible with me, so she wanted me to send her off to her wedding. Emily looked at me with a naive face, but I didn't miss the malice that flashed in her eyes. At that moment, I finally realized that she really wanted to kill me that day. She knew about my relationship with Marcus. Even if I knew her plan, as a servant, I had no right to refuse. With Marcus' permission, I followed Emily back to her residence. She made excuses that there weren't enough rooms and sent me to the damp and cold woodshed. I spent the night leaning against the firewood, and my wound seemed to hurt again. The next day, the maid woke me up early in the morning and asked me to help Emily dress and comb her hair. She sat and I knelt, accidentally pulling her hair. Emily turned around and slapped me. Bitch, you can't even do this little thing well. I endured the pain, I deserve to die. Emily chuckled and raised my chin, her eyes no longer having the naivety and kindness she had before, only full of disdain and disgust. I thought that since sister served brother Prince for so long, she would have been used to doing this kind of thing. Or are you relying on brother Prince's favor and not taking me seriously? I lowered my head, I wouldn't dare. She snorted disdainfully. After I enter the prince's residence, you should know what you should and shouldn't do. I smiled silently. After today, I was afraid that I would never see her again in this life. Seeing that I was sensible, Emily didn't make things difficult for me any further. When the time came, I helped her out the door and unexpectedly met Marcus' eyes. He was wearing a wedding dress and sitting high on a horse. I had imagined this scene countless times, and when I saw it with my own eyes, I still couldn't help but feel a pain in my heart. I forced myself to turn my eyes away and helped Emily to the carriage. She waved her hand to reject the ladder brought by the servants and raised her chin at me. You kneel down. I subconsciously looked at Marcus. His thin lips were pursed tightly, and he didn't say anything. Then I understood what he meant. Under everyone's gaze, I knelt on both knees and lay on the ground, letting Emily step on me to get into the carriage. She stepped very hard, and when she landed on my shoulder blade, she even maliciously twisted it. After a while, I smelled a bloody smell. The wound had reopened. I endured the tearing pain and followed the team back to the prince's residence, and watched him and Emily get married. After everything was over, I left with my luggage that I had packed early in the morning, without looking back. Marcus, goodbye. From now on, the mountains are high and the roads are long, and we will never meet again. For some reason, Marcus felt a pang in his heart. It was as if something was quietly slipping away from his fingers, and he eagerly wanted to know what it was. He unconsciously walked to my room and was about to push it open. The steward came in a hurry. Your Highness, the guests are all waiting for you in the front hall. Why did you come here? Marcus then came back to his senses. He looked at his hands blankly, and then at the door. After a long time, he flung his sleeves and turned away resolutely. The next day, he didn't see me anywhere. Indeed, the shadow guard by his side had also been replaced. He casually asked, "Where's Claire?" Emily, who had just gotten up, was stunned, and a hint of unwillingness flashed in her eyes. The servant was surprised. Your Highness, Miss Claire left yesterday. Don't you know? What did you say? Marcus glared at the man in an instant, his eyelashes trembling unconsciously. Why didn't anyone tell me about this? Seeing Marcus get angry, the man knelt on the ground in fright. Your Highness, please forgive me. Miss Claire applied to leave the residence to the Shadow Guard captain a few days ago. I thought you knew. Marcus was furious and kicked the man away. Bastard, you dare to talk back. Blood dripped down from the corner of his forehead, and Su Xian lowered his head and dared not speak again. Marcus put his hands on his hips and paced back and forth. For some reason, he had a strong premonition that he had to find Claire as soon as possible, otherwise it would be too late. He said in a deep voice, "Go find her for me, even if it's at the ends of the earth, bring her back to me." Su Xian didn't dare to delay and quickly retreated after receiving the order. Hearing that I had actually taken the initiative to leave, Emily was overjoyed and twisted her waist to whisper sweet words in Marcus' ear, but she was ruthlessly overturned by him. Your Highness, she sat on the ground and looked at Marcus in shock, unable to believe that the man who was still caring for her and showing her all kinds of love last night could change his face so quickly. Marcus was worried about me and had no time to pay attention to her emotions. He unconsciously walked to my room again. He pushed open the door and saw that there was nothing left in the room, only a dagger was placed alone on the table. Seeing it, Marcus' pupils shook. Ever since he gave me this dagger, I had always kept it close to my body and never took it off for a moment. He trembled and picked up the dagger, muttering, Yuan, I haven't let you go yet, you're not allowed to go anywhere. That day, after leaving the prince's residence, I went all the way north. From the crowded south shore to the borderlands filled with wind and sand. What I saw and heard in this month was more wonderful than the first half of my life. Since I was 3 years old, I had been following Marcus and had seen too much deceit and intrigue, so I longed for such a leisurely and carefree time. It was just that such days didn't last long before they were ruined by a rascal. I looked at the man behind me helplessly. Can you please stop following me? The man came up to me with a cheeky smile. Female warrior, I have no way to repay your kindness for saving my life. How about I offer myself to you? I rolled my eyes. Half a month ago, I went to the mountain to see the Sea of Clouds and saw him being entangled by a group of bandits. I didn't want to interfere, but I couldn't stand them bullying the weak, so I helped him. I didn't expect him to rely on me since then, and in the name of repaying his gratitude, he followed me wherever I went. I couldn't reason with him, and I couldn't scold him away. I was speechless. I don't need you to repay my kindness. Can you just pretend that never happened? Kyle raised his eyebrows. How can that be? If you don't like marrying in, how about marrying me? I swear I will treat you well in the future and will never have any second thoughts. I was too lazy to talk nonsense with him. Seeing me turn around and leave, Kyle entangled me again. Just like that, I walked and he chased, and gradually I got used to his presence. Just when I had almost forgotten about Marcus. One day, the streets were suddenly plastered with posters of me. My mind tightened, and I immediately thought of him. Besides him, no one else in this world would be so blatant in looking for me. But I didn't understand. I had already left to fulfill him and Emily. Why was he still looking for me? I raised my foo. And was about to leave, but I saw Kyle looking at the poster thoughtfully. I couldn't help but become vigilant, afraid that he would take me to exchange for a ransom. Unexpectedly, the next day, those posters disappeared for no reason, as if they had never existed. Afraid of being recognized, I still hid in the house for a few days. Seeing that no one came looking for me, I finally let go of my hanging heart. As a shadow guard, I had saved a lot of money in the past few years, but I didn't want to sit idle and do nothing. So, at Kyle's instigation, I opened a silverware shop with him. I copied a few styles of jewelry from the noble ladies of the Central Plains and asked the craftsmen to make them. I didn't expect them to become unexpectedly popular, so busy that I didn't even have time to think about old people and old things. Days passed by like this, and I gradually let down my guard. I didn't expect Marcus to still not let me go. In the blink of an eye, it had been half a year since I left Marcus. That day, Kyle and I had just walked to the door when we saw a group of soldiers surrounding our shop. Without thinking, I rushed in and ran straight into Marcus' dark and deep eyes. I stopped abruptly. Seeing me at that moment, Marcus' body trembled imperceptibly. After a moment of eye contact, he reached out to me, his voice extremely hoarse. "Claire, come here." I subconsciously took half a step back. Kyle vigilantly pulled me behind him, protecting me. "Who are you?" Marcus looked at the hand holding mine and narrowed his eyes displeased. "What are you? How dare you talk to your highness like that?" This was between me and him, and I didn't want to implicate others. "This has nothing to do with him. If you have something, come at me." Seeing me actually protecting him, a trace of injury flashed in Marcus' eyes. "Who is he? You've been with him for the past 6 months?" Before I could answer, Kyle crossed his arms and raised his chin triumphantly. "I'm her husband." "Of course she's been with me." Marcus' face sank when he heard this, and a surging rage and murderous intent appeared in his usually calm eyes. He always had this expression before killing someone. I knew that Kyle was no match for him, so I subconsciously stood in front of him, posing for battle. This was the first time in more than 10 years that I had stood on the opposite side of him. Marcus was stung by my vigilant expression. "Ah, Juan, come back with me." "I'm not going." The reason why I came here was because I was greedy for the scenery and wanted to stay far away from him. I didn't expect him to abandon everything and come looking for me. "Marcus, I'm no longer your shadow guard. I won't go back with you." "No, not a shadow guard." Marcus rarely revealed a trace of affection in his eyes. "As long as you come back with me, titles and status, whatever you want, I can give you." If I had heard these words half a year ago, I would have been so moved that I would have given my all for him, but it was too late. After leaving him, I realized that there were so many things in this world worth listening to and seeing, instead of being trapped in a maze that I could never escape, becoming a tool without self or thought. I shook my head. "Marcus, for the sake of me risking my life for you in the past, please let me go." His eyes suddenly turned red, and he pointed at Kyle. "Why? Is it because of him that you don't want to come back with me?" The problem between me and him had nothing to do with others. Seeing that I was determined, Marcus said a word. "Ah, Juan, I won't give up. I will definitely make you willingly come back with me." I knew Marcus was a person who wouldn't give up until he achieved his goal. Afraid that he would come again, I suggested to Kyle that we take a few days off. He was happy to be free and took me around the neighborhood for a few laps. But one day he suddenly disappeared, and there were still traces of fighting in the house. Without thinking, I rushed to the inn where Marcus was staying. "Where's Kyle?" "Where did you take him?" Marcus' smile paused. "Ah, Juan, you're questioning me for another man?" I drew my knife. "Stop talking nonsense, hand over Kyle." Marcus laughed self-deprecatingly. "Ah, Juan, wake up. You've been deceived by Kyle. He's not an ordinary person at all, but the 5th Prince of Viridia." He must have a purpose for approaching you while hiding his identity. Suddenly learning Kyle's true identity, I was only surprised for a moment. From his words and actions, I had already guessed that his background must be extraordinary, but I didn't expect him to be a prince of Viridia. After spending half a year with him, I could tell whether he had any malice towards me. Seeing that I didn't speak, Marcus wanted to hug me. "Ah, Juan, come back to my side. Wouldn't it be nice if we were the same as before? Don't worry, I can give you what Kyle can give you, and I can give you what he can't." I impatiently put away my knife and turned to leave. "You don't have to persuade me, I won't go back with you." Marcus suddenly smiled strangely. "That's not up to you." Before I could figure out what he meant, my body suddenly went weak, and I couldn't use my inner strength. Only then did I vaguely smell a faint fragrance coming from the incense burner. There was something wrong with the incense. Marcus caught my soft body, his voice a bit seductive. "Ah, Juan, sleep. When you wake up, everything will go back to the beginning." I bit my lip hard, trying to stay awake. But I couldn't resist the effects of the drug and lost consciousness after a while. When I woke up again, I was in a fast-moving carriage. I moved my body and found that I still didn't have any strength. Seeing me wake up, Marcus took a glass of water and handed it to my lips. I was so angry that I knocked it over. "Marcus, you're crazy, hurry up and let me go." Marcus wasn't angry, but squatted at my feet and touched my face with a fascinated look, his voice as gentle as water. "Ah, Juan, bear with it, I'll untie you when we get back." I was so angry that I didn't care about any etiquette. "Marcus, I've told you many times, I don't want to go back. I don't want to go back. Are you deaf?" The smile visibly disappeared from his face. Marcus gritted his teeth, and a feeling of madness surged in his eyes. "Besides my side, you can't go anywhere, and I don't want to watch you be with other men." I was burned by his hot eyes and suddenly remembered why I left. "What about Emily? Don't you like her? Aren't you afraid she'll be angry if you bring me back?" Marcus's reaction was to pull me into a tight embrace. "Claire, I knew you cared." He continued, "Don't worry, I'll strip her of her title as soon as I get back. You don't like me being with other women, so I won't be with anyone else ever again." He added, "I'll talk to my father and ask him to make you my princess, okay?" In that moment, I finally understood Marcus had truly lost his mind. He used to draw a clear line between us for Emily's sake, letting her humiliate and insult me, making me watch him marry someone else. Now he wants to discard her at a whim? This unpredictable, selfish, and heartless man was terrifying. Knowing words were useless, I turned my head away, refusing to look at him, trying to express my discontent in this way. All the way back, Marcus kept talking. "Claire, you might not believe it, but I've always had feelings for you. I was just scared, afraid of falling too deep, so I wanted to use Emily to push you away. I thought you'd always be there for me. I thought that no matter what, whenever I turned around, you'd be standing behind me. It wasn't until I lost you that I realized I was wrong. Claire, I don't want to lose you. Please, give me a chance to make things right." I had always believed that Marcus didn't love me, that was why he treated me the way he did, but I never expected that he actually did love me. It was just that the high and mighty prince couldn't admit that he could fall for a maid as insignificant as dust, and pushed me away with such a decisive action. After I left, he regretted it and wanted to beg for my forgiveness. But he didn't know that a broken heart could never be fully repaired, no matter how much it was mended. Seeing that I was unmoved, he sent the Shadow Guard captain to persuade me. But my mind was made up, and nothing could change it. Ethan saw the situation and said nothing more. As the carriage got closer and closer to the royal city, I inexplicably thought of Kyle. Returning to Etheria meant it would be difficult to see him again. When he was around, I always found him annoying, but now that he was gone, I missed him a little. Habit is a terrible thing. Just like how I used to always treat Marcus well, always putting him first in everything, until I was hurt all over, I understood that it was time to leave his world. That night, Marcus and I stayed at an inn. In the middle of the night, I suddenly heard the sound of clashing weapons. Taking advantage of the lax guard, I rushed out and saw Kyle fighting Marcus with his men. "You thought you could get away with reporting me to my father and luring me away?" Kyle yelled. "Marcus, give Claire back to me." Marcus sneered. Dream on. She's mine. You'll have to step over my dead body if you want to take her from me, otherwise, don't even think about me letting her go. With that, the two sides were fighting again. This would only lead to mutual destruction, which was the last thing I wanted to see. I suddenly grabbed a guard sword and held it to my neck, shouting, "Stop!" Marcus turned around and his eyes widened with horror. "Claire, that's dangerous. Put the sword down." I moved the blade a few more inches in. "Marcus, let us go, or you'll only be able to take my corpse back with you." Marcus almost ground his teeth to pieces, reluctantly saying, "Claire, I met you first. You promised you'd never leave me. I regret it." "What?" Marcus couldn't believe what he was hearing. The girl who was always full of him, who said she would never leave him, actually said she regretted it. I looked into his eyes and said, word by word, I said I regret it. "Marcus, I'm very grateful that you saved my life when I was a child, but I also sold my life to you for 10 years, risking my life countless times. We're even." "No." Marcus angrily pointed at Kyle. "Is it because of him? Have you fallen in love with him? You've only known him for how long? Do you even know him? Do you know what kind of person he is?" This was the second time Marcus had asked me this question. I shook my head. "Marcus, our problems have never had anything to do with anyone else. I don't want to go back just because. I don't love you anymore. From the day I left, I never thought about going back. That place only brought me pain and torment." He seemed not to have expected the answer to be like this. The sharp blade cut through my skin, and my hands were covered with blood, but I didn't care. "Let me go, or take my corpse back. Choose one." Marcus staggered unsteadily when he heard this. He looked at me quietly, then suddenly smiled, his laughter particularly desolate and sad. After a long time, he lowered his head, as if he had aged 10 years in an instant, and his voice was so hoarse that it didn't sound like him. "Let them go." I didn't expect Marcus to really let us leave. Kyle eagerly pulled me onto the horse. The horse ran for who knows how long until we came to a lake. He bandaged my wounds with heartache, while also scolding me for being too impulsive. I looked at him. "Kyle, I'm not worth you being so good to me." Kyle flicked my forehead hard. "Silly girl, no one in this world is more worthy of me doing this." I felt a pain, and a surge of emotion welled up in my heart. "Kyle, do you like me?" The hand he was using to apply medicine to me paused, his ears suddenly turned red, but his eyes looked at me with incomparable firmness. "I do, Claire, I like you." I didn't expect him to be so direct. My voice was hoarse. "Kyle, we've only known each other for less than half a year, and Marcus and I." "You're wrong." Kyle suddenly interrupted before I could finish. "Claire, I've known you for much longer than you think." "What are you talking about?" I looked at him blankly, but I couldn't remember when I had ever met him. Until he said, "When I was 10 years old, I went to Etheria with an envoy. I got lost and met a little girl who was crying. She gave me directions." When he said that, I remembered. At that time, I did something wrong and was punished by Marcus. I secretly hid and cried for a long time until a young master squatted next to me and gave me a piece of candy. I never thought that person would be Kyle, and that he would recognize me at first sight after we reunited. Seeing that I remembered, Kyle chuckled. "Although you can be stubborn sometimes, and you like to dwell on things, I just think you're very, very good. Losing you is Marcus's loss. Claire, give me a chance, okay? I promise I'll treat you well." My heart skipped a beat. I really wanted to agree, but then I thought about my past with Marcus. I didn't want to deceive him, so I told him the truth. To my surprise, Kyle breathed a sigh of relief after hearing it. "So, that's what you're worried about. Claire, let me tell you a story." I nodded. "Before my mother married my father, she was married once. After entering the family, she took care of the whole household by herself, but that man was no good. He would hit my mother when he was drunk. She endured it for 2 years, and finally couldn't bear it anymore. She divorced him and soon met my father and gave birth to me." "Do you think the past was my mother's fault?" I shook my head. He held me affectionately. Similarly, the matter between you and Marcus is not your fault either. You don't have to belittle yourself because of it. This time when I go back, I mentioned you to my mother, and she wants to meet you very much. Would you like to go back with me and see her? I hesitated for a moment. Meeting his expectant gaze, I couldn't help but nod. Kyle was right, I just fell in love with the wrong person at the wrong time. I couldn't change the past, but I wanted to try the future. Just like Kyle said, his mother liked me very much. A year later, under her supervision, Kyle and I held a grand wedding. That day, Marcus sent a gift through someone. When I opened it, it turned out to be the dagger he had once given me. After I accepted it, I put it in the warehouse and it gathered dust. I was no longer the maid who licked blood off the tip of a knife, so naturally I no longer needed this thing. Later, I heard that Emily had angered Marcus for some reason and was stripped of her title as princess. Years later, Marcus ascended the throne, but the empress position remained vacant. But that had nothing to do with me. Because I had already found the person I wanted to spend my life with, the one who only had me in his heart and eyes.